Hello my friends, this is a look in the dark, chapter 14, called Global. I'm sorry about the glare in my glasses and I don't have any idea how I can get rid of that, and if anybody's got any suggestions I'd be glad to know them. Stephen Sinclair was a hard-pressed man, but nonetheless had been happy to make some time to talk to an old friend from Eton. His friend had just entered the office Stephen occupied at Bristol's BBC buildings, and as the two shook hands it was no formality but rather a strong bond between them was being expressed, a bond that stretched back to school days when they had not infrequently been conspirators in something outside the rules. "Well, Stephen, dear chap, I believe you have put on weight." "Ha! And do you think you haven't? Sit down, you old devil, it's good to see you. Are you still hurtling around the countryside on those darn motorcycles, scaring the life out of the Dorset country folk?" "Well, at times. We all know what you're up to, though." "The name Stephen Sinclair seems to be attached to the production of numerous programmes these days. Delighted you're having such a successful career. It was what you always sought after, broadcasting, I mean." "Absolutely. I'm very, very happy. Listen, Richard, I know you've something on your mind. I'd love to meet up with you for a drink sometime, but right now I only have half an hour, I'm afraid, so we'd better get down to business." Ricky became serious in a second. "This is really important, Stephen. As important as anything you will ever do for me. I know you're busy, but tell me this." He waited to make sure the television producer's full attention was with him. "What can you tell me about John Clayton?" Stephen Sinclair looked a little surprised, even upset. "What do you want to know about him? Most people in British television are trying hard to forget him, disgraceful man that he is. What's going on, Richard?" "It's like this, Stephen. I believe that John Clayton is involved in something appalling, and I intend to see that his activity is brought to a halt." "On the moral high ground these days, are you, Rick?" That question earned the television producer a scornful glance. "Not exactly. I would not claim to be an English champion of law and order, but these are practices that I abhor, and so will you, I promise you, when I return to you with the whole story." What story? The journalistic background of Stephen Sinclair had been aroused. "You'll soon see. I give you my word. In the meantime, just tell me, old boy, what you know about Clayton." "John Clayton came here from Texas, but he originates in New England somewhere. He arrived with some brilliant filming of wildlife down in Central America, as well as some from Africa. I can't remember where. He also had some incredible footage about Native Americans. He worked freelance but had several contacts with the corporation. In fact, I worked with him on one production myself. He seemed amiable enough at first. He went off to shoot some stuff for us in the Brazilian rainforest, somewhere you and I have never heard of. That was when the trouble started." "What kind of trouble?" Sir Richard Claymore was interested intently in what his old friend was going to tell him. "There was a serious scandal about it at the time. He was somewhere along the Amazon, and there were some very serious allegations that he paid some of the native people to stir up trouble with the logging company that was working there. Also, it was alleged that he paid some of the loggers to take the law into their own hands with the native tribe. Then Clayton filmed the results. The government had apparently been sparing no effort to keep things right with the natives, but the results set them back years. Clayton was actually deported. Not prosecuted. No, don't ask me why not. The BBC were in a rather embarrassing situation because some of the series of the programmes had already been shown. Clayton came back and went into some frenzy. He felt he should have been given support back here. He was like a crazed bull elephant when we withdrew the rest of the series of programmes and broke off his contract. He'll never get any work in British television again, nor anywhere else, if we can prevent it." "Good job too." "There was even a question raised in the House of Commons about it. It seems to have had a bad name among some of the wildlife organisations as well. Some rumours that he'd filmed rare creatures in the past. You know the kind of thing, Ricky. Endangered species. Well, later on he has passed information on, if the rumours are well founded, to people in the illicit trade in animals and birds. Now that, dear Stephen, interests me more than you can know." does it? Why especially? You'll see soon enough. Where does Mr. Clayton live? In the UK? As far as you know, he spends his time between here and Amsterdam. He has an apartment in Kensington somewhere. Probably has a home still in the States too. He writes articles for a magazine, GeoWare, but under the pseudonym Martin Lewisham. Never heard of that magazine. What was it again? GeoWare. It's the magazine of a new charity called the Geographic Council for Better Understanding. Of course, when our news guys tried to interview them about Clayton being involved, they stated that any allegations about Mr. Clayton were unfounded and suggested that the matters he was accused of were the products of corrupt governments in a foreign nation, unproven and unfounded. Really? Could they be right? Believe me, Richard, I know Clayton. A man of integrity, he most certainly is not. His involvement makes me very, very wary about this new charity. Has it a branch in Bristol? Yes, it has branches in most university towns and cities, but their main office isn't far away. It's just in Bath. Oh, is it now? On my route home. Listen, Ricky, I'm not sure what you're playing up, but watch Clayton. The police could not prove it. And he'd been deported when it came to light, but a logging chief was found dead under a tree miles into the untamed forest. Local natives claimed that he died not at Clayton's hands, but at his orders. I believe him to be a dangerous and unprincipled man. Please be careful. I intend to be, old boy. You've been a great help, Stephen. I'll let you carry on with your work, but I'll be back, and the story will be yours when it is due to break. I promise you that, as long as you give me your word that you'll keep it in the public eye when the time comes. What are you mixed up in, Richard? You'll learn later. I think you'll be happy to have the story. Not a risk to your welfare, dear friend. Please watch it. I'll tell you something, Stephen. Since my fiancée... Since she died, I've not done anything much that counts. Wasted a fair bit of my life. This is the first time I've been involved in anything a man could say he could be proud of. Heard different to that myself. I was at a charity event in Dorset earlier in the year, chatting with a couple of much involved in well-known children's charity there. They said that 2 years ago they would have been lost without the financial support and practical assistance on hands from a certain Sir Richard Claymore. I told them I'd known you most of my life. I said that really didn't surprise me at all. Well, Stephen, it's time I let you get on. Take care. Thanks for your help. It's been absolutely invaluable. Oh, and Stephen, old boy, will you keep all this under your hat for now, please, until I bring you the whole story? Goes without saying, Richard. I will patiently wait like a heron. Great to see you. As Sir Richard Claymore pointed his Mark 10 Jaguar out of Bristol and onto the road for Bath, he had all manner of thoughts whirling around in his mind. He knew in his heart that he would like Danny Green to do this job for him, but that was the coward's way out, and he wasn't a coward. But he hadn't really wanted to be involved in the investigation himself. Well, not at the start anyway. However, now he had started and he realised that he was involved. Danny and Carol were still out of Britain and he had the address. When he got as far as the Globe pub, he didn't take his usual route, avoiding Bath by driving over Combe Down and through those beautiful villages like Hinton Charterhouse and Norton St Philip. This time he drove on along the main Bath road, along the Lower Bristol road, and he pulled the car over near some deserted industrial buildings and checked the address and consulted his A to Z covering both Bath and Bristol. Turning to page 101, he soon found Brook Road, Moorland Road and the small junction off it. 10 minutes later he was locking the door and walking round the corner. He soon found the slightly neglected-looking building, certainly not one of Bath's architectural delights that charmed the eye. There was not a hint of a column or a palladium frieze here. The front door had a plaque that shone in the sunshine, as did the door handle. The brass objects seemed like new gold earrings on an ancient and bedraggled old woman. The wording on the shining metal said, Geographic Council for Better Understanding. Putting his car keys in his trouser pocket, Ricky pushed the front door open and a sign pointed him up the shoddy staircase to the first floor. It was a darkly painted staircase, and it took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust from the bright daylight outside. Climbing the stairs, that had a carpet nearly as old as a visitor. He passed 2 doors marked private on his right, and a third door painted in a rather sickly green had a card attached which had the same logo as the front door plaque, a light blue card, and the lettering in bright green like the door. The bottom of the card there was an added 2 words, head office. Sir Richard knocked the door and walked in, and a young man of about 20 was sitting behind a desk in a well-lit room, modernly furnished, though as shabby as a stairway. Good afternoon, can I help you? Yes, I'm rather interested in the work of your organisation, the Geographic Council, I mean. Oh, good. Do you wish to volunteer? Well, just now I'd like some information, you see. What you hope to achieve and how, that kind of thing. The young man invited Ricky into a room adjoining where there was a longer desk and around the room about a dozen chairs, but nobody else was in the room, which was painted in a slightly lighter shade of green that somehow defied the general opinion that green was a restful colour. On the walls there were several paintings of birds, animals and native peoples. One wall had not one picture, but it did have a very large map of the world. The youngster switched on the light, but Ricky wished he hadn't, as the effect was even more nauseating. There was a smell as well, which made the aristocrat think of leaking gas. Sit down, please. The young man placed a chair in front of the desk, and he went to the back of it. My name is Carl Timperton. I work here as a volunteer 2 afternoons a week. Would you like me to outline what our charity is all about? Yes, young man, that would be a great help to me. Well, our aim is really in our name, Mr. Yes, I see. So you seek to promote understanding between peoples. That's right, between people and cultures. We feel that if the people of Taunton or Dumfries can be helped to comprehend what the Indian in Delhi or the Arab in Morocco thinks and why, well then there would be much less tension in the world, more peace, which would result in more cooperation in the use of the Earth's resources. Our patron says, universal understanding leads to universal unity. Very noble, no doubt. Ricky searched the face for reason to doubt the youth's sincerity. So how do you achieve these high ideals? Education and also trips to other lands. Many of us are students, and in the summer we'll be visiting various locations, working at projects with local people. We also gather data about the fauna of locations we visit and anything else that would be of worldwide interest. I see, interesting work. Ricky pointed at the map. Can you tell me about any specific projects going on right now at this moment? Many of our projects are not public until we publish our collective findings. However, there is one project that was used to publicise our work recently, so I would be happy to tell you about it. Currently, a team of 6 have been funded by us to visit East Africa, and working with local tribesmen, they're involved in a very interesting assignment. Cheetahs are one of the planet's endangered species. They've gone to work out with people there how they can be best protected, as well as determine what, besides poaching, is having an effect on their numbers. What kind of things? We'll know better when the work is finished, but I imagine environmental factors will be carefully considered. Yes, no doubt that would be an interesting study. Whereabouts in Africa is this study being conducted? Sorry, I don't have that information. We tend to work confidentially until we publish information. Some of our work is rather sensitive, and our patron stresses our need to win the confidence of local people before we report too much to people here. There are plans to print a yearbook at the end of the year, but of course we're still a very new charity and much depends on the availability of our finances. Always the problem. Ricky felt almost guilty, but not quite uttering those words. Our patron is very interested in helping native peoples preserve the threatened species of wildlife. He says protect and preserve, conserve and reserve. Yes, he sounds a good man. Oh, he is. Wants to make progress in helping native poachers find beneficial work. Excellent. Capital. Students or anyone else involved benefits as well from living in and gaining insight onto other cultures. Our patron also says understanding other cultures is the way to peace of mind. Sir Richard had heard about enough of what the patron said. This poor lad, who seemed to be on the level, was quoting the patron as if he were a modern-day Confucius. So how are you financed? Oh, voluntary contributions. There was a noise of footsteps on the stairs. That would be some of the other students involved. We're having a meeting in a few minutes about recruitment and fundraising in Scotland and Wales. Well, young man, I'll let you get on, but I might be interested in helping you. Have you some literature? Ricky passed a group of 5 students, 2 boys and 2 girls, in the outer reception room, and they returned his cheery greeting. On the stairs he met a young lady with a very serious face, clutching a handful of books and papers. As he passed her near the bottom of the stairs, he stood on one side and said cheerily, "You might tell young Ch14 up there that it smells rather like you've a gas leak somewhere in this building." The girl's serious face became even more so, and Ricky stepped out into the fresh air and sunshine with a sense of relief. When he arrived at his car again, a little boy and girl were admiring it as their mother and another lady had a conversation. As he pulled away from there, he gave them a wave, a smile, and a toot of the horn. He glanced down at the booklet the young student had given him. On the cover was a very attractive young man and a very pretty young lady from Britain, presumably sitting down to a meal with a radiantly smiling African family. Ricky was troubled much by that picture. The whole idea of promoting understanding seemed so special, but if this was all part of the Clayton-Stanhurst business, it was just like Adolf Hitler posing as the fairy godmother. Later, as he flicked through the brochure, mumbling to himself and drinking his coffee Sue had made for him, she watched with interest. She asked him, "What did you say about the patron?" Haymore, whatever his name is, that student lad Carl in their office, was quoting him as one would a saint. "Have a look at this dear girl before I go. I'd like to take it with me and study it properly at home." She took the booklet and Ricky started to clear away the dishes from their meal. He shouted something about her not being sensible cooking such fine meals, as he might think twice about eating out again. But Sue seemed not to notice. She got up to get a pen and paper, and after a few minutes she let out a shout of, "Got it!" "Got what, young lady?" "Oh, Uncle Ricky, I'm sorry to leave you at the dish. I only just noticed you. I didn't know you were doing them, but did you see the name of the patron? Look, it's an anagram, look." Sir Richard Claymore came from the kitchen, drying his hands with a smile. The smile of pleasure that this dear girl was now calling him Uncle Ricky. As he approached the dining room table, Sue held out the sheet of paper she'd been scribbling on. She pointed to the bottom of the page where she had written Haymore S.J. Erstant, and underneath, Major Stanhurst. "Do you see, Uncle Ricky? The much-quoted patron of the Geographic Society for Better Understanding is none other than the nasty Major Stanhurst." "Well done, Sue. How did you spot that? If anyone ever proved to me that this is just a front for other things, it is his involvement. Good work. Well done, Theo. And well done, Sue." So there it is, my friends. Chapter 14, Global, in completion. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for continuing to listen. More to follow soon. Love and peace to all of you. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.